Hello again. Yeah, this is a busy day for me, but I've also been asked by my son, in fact, to, well, in fact, he asked me to write poems about Brexit, which I'm happy to do, but in fact, I've already done it. And I think this one is absolutely self-explanatory. I am a Remainer, if you like, but I'm a bit more than that, because for me, the first referendum on Brexit was held in 1975, when we agreed, the majority said that we would stay in the European Union, or European EEC as it was then. But the idea that there was no debate about politics is absolute rubbish, and anyone that lived through that knows that. We saw Europe as being the third way between a US-dominated world and a Soviet Union-dominated world, and we wanted Europe to be a third way in the middle of those two blocks. And I can go into great detail with anyone that wants to take me up on that. I will go back to newspapers that were published at those times to prove that that was the case. It was never a decision based purely on economics, although we can also show that the economics have worked. And in practice, I believe that the UK has profited dramatically from the European Union. In 1973, I was actually in the army in Germany, stationed in Germany, permanently stationed in Germany because of the nature of what we did. We were defending Europe against the Soviet bloc in those days. And the government didn't have enough money to actually provide us with petrol to keep our vehicles running. So the idea that somehow we were great and now we've been diminished by Europe is completely fallacious, completely fallacious. But anyway, let me not polemicize. Let me just read the poem, and it's called Sacred Union. Remember, remember when we played no part, when the continent was a far-off place and continentals were a different race, our bureaucracy a worn-out wartime relic. Crossing the channel, a curious challenge, ridiculous regulations, red tape abounded, taxation tables, all reason confounded. We became members of a sacred union that sought to stop stupidity and strife, established to protect a way of life wherein we would share the good times and bad with those that dwelled across the water. Our nation had chosen an uncharted course on the post-war stage to become the third force. By referendum, we decided to remain, nullifying negative nationalism, rallying to the rigor of rationalism, recognizing our errors and economic weakness, accepting old rivals could compromise, working together we would all be stronger, in imperious isolation would we linger no longer. Our leaders soon sought a single market. Barriers to trade should be reduced, selling freely wherever we produce, creating a level playing field. Expected to be an everlasting state, if rules there must be, there should be one set, protection prohibited if our conditions met. Our government also encouraged enlargement. Dilution would come from the East, as democracy destroyed the socialist beast, choosing to ignore that international trade would include not just product, but people. Unforeseen, those foreign faces who fill low-paid jobs in vacant spaces. Millions traveled to and from the Union. Our civil servants now served abroad, part of the hated, unelected horde. At home, some spread fear of being submerged. Our national identity would be lost. Couples from different nations provided children whose loyalties were deeply divided. The other side's grass then grew greener. As most who had experienced the history had died, the time had come to again decide whether to leave what we had helped develop and break the links that had begun to bind. Alone our race would regain its purity. Spurious sovereignty should bring us security. It's so easy to blame filthy foreigners. Logical consequences can be brushed aside in an anti-immigration tide, and the concerns of an unknown minority whose allegiance is to this sacred union would be judged by those unaffected, preoccupations of our partners disrespected. As we strive to forecast a final verdict, no one can know how the process will end, though it's certain the discussions will surely offend those that some regard as their family, who are expected to listen to our point of view. How strange this desire to grow apart, a decision of neither the head nor heart. Thank you very much.